Hi, and welcome to Side Quest, the Authors and Dragons off-week episodes in which we do random shit that really doesn't matter and that we tend to forget about the week after. My name is Rick Gualtieri, and I'm here with Steve Weatherall, Robert Bevan, and Drew Hayes for this week. Guys?
Hi, everybody.
How do you do?
I give you a nice introduction, and you just gotta, shit on it, man.
Peep, peep, and cheerio.
It's like our Halloween episode. I'm trying to be creepy.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah. Well, what's creepier than like a child puppet voice?
Your clammy head's Edgar voice.
Yeah,
Agree to disagree. I think the tooth voice is the voice that I'm most commonly called creeped out for now.
That one was good.
Yeah, that. Yeah. Apparently, a lot of people found that one more disturbing than they were expecting.
Than expected. Surely as disturbing as expected. You tooth-sucking weirdo.
Hey, I'll be honest, I didn't think stealing teeth was going to be that high on the weirdness scale compared to what everybody else would do. It's not sucking teeth, it's stealing teeth.
You know something? We got a lot of buzz for that Side Quest episode, so you keep stealing teeth, man.
Oh, I will. You can't stop me. No one can stop me.
He's the hero we deserve.
He's the something you deserve.
We want to hop into our bonus action?
I believe that's how we start these, as we are building the track while the train is going down. Yes, bonus action. Rick, tell us about the bonus action for this week, because I really feel like this is sort of anchored in your wheelhouse.
Well, this week's bonus action, we took a look at the new trailer for the remake of Pet Sematary. I guess for those of you who don't know or live in a closet or haven't seen Freedom in several years, which is probably a lot of our listeners, Pet Sematary is based off of a Stephen King novel. Spoiler: it involves a pet cemetery.
God damn it!
Well, they might not have got that because they spell cemetery the wrong way. I think.
Yeah, I actually only just noticed that.
I think that's just to
so in a way, it's
off.
kind of like pet semen-tary.
Exactly. I was expecting a whole other film.
Yeah, which I think would be a far more interesting film to watch.
Just jacking off animals for 90 minutes.
Or you just go to the pet cemetery and jack off on their graves.
That's what brings them back.
I mean, that would truly be a disturbing horror movie. If I showed up to a theater to watch a movie and I watched 90 minutes of people jerking off farm animals, yeah, I would definitely leave feeling unsettled.
Onto the graves of other animals. Don't forget that.
Several years ago, my wife and we went on one of those like New Year's Eve cruises. And it was
really jerk off animals.
Well, no. The funny thing is, the person we were sitting with, we were talking about what we do for a living, and she jerked off bulls for a living.
Oh, I really want to be that lady's friend.
Yeah, and I gotta say, for like, no, it was on New Year's. It was 4th of July. For 4th of July, I found that conversation far more interesting than fireworks. It's like, hey, look at the fireworks. No, I want to talk about jacking off bulls some more.
Yeah. Don't change the fucking subject.
Are you paid by the bucket? Like,
you do what for a living?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, does that pay more than like jerking off guys, like per jerk?
Apparently it does. Apparently it's big business. And I gotta say, I don't know about you, but like, this was like, a relatively petite woman, and let me tell you, I would not fuck with somebody who jerks off bulls for a living.
Well, yeah, why would you want to? Yeah, apparently, like a big export from England to China is pig semen. Someone's got to be jerking off all those pigs. That's got to be a valuable skill set. I mean,
is that like because the Chinese pigs aren't like their swimmers don't swim right, or is that like a Chinese medicine kind of thing? Or?
Well, I like to think they just don't have the experience of technique that the English have.
Something? I wish it was Japan instead of. I wish it was Japan instead of China, because you just know there would be some in-your-face energy drink commercial about that. You must drink pig semen.
Well, it probably is.
I did. I posted.
Well, we are really starting off on a note, aren't we?
I posted a Facebook picture years ago with a truck I saw, and I said, that looks like, a picture of a guy just splooging all over the place. It was a cartoony picture, but my wife said, That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. This energy drink or whatever it was is supposed to be good for your man juice or whatever.
Or pig juice.
God, I think you've told us about this before.
Yeah, for dedicated Patreon listeners, you'll recognize this from our first Doughboys mimic jest. Why not relive those memories of the hurricane splooge?
How did you pull from that deep sea?
Damn.
I have a personal recording of every time Robert Bevan mentions something dick-orientated, and I play it before I go to sleep each night.
Man, how are you ever going to sleep?
It's got to be getting pretty long by now.
I don't sleep anymore.
We started this podcast 3 years ago. I haven't slept since. Okay, so getting to the movie trailer. I think you guys got a chance to.
Right, the actual thing.
I don't know. Are we done with this?
I just wonder. All right, say you wanted to jerk off dudes for a living. Could you put I've jerked off bulls on your resume? Would that count? Would you pay more for that, guys? Or she's got a technique down that can satisfy a bull.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to live up to that technique. That's just overpowering.
No, not you. I'm just saying that.
I would go for it just so I could be like, yeah, baby, move it.
It's worth it for the cow pun.
Yes.
Let's be fair.
I might try.
That is a pretty good pun.
Just to see, like, wow, what is this magical technique?
Just to understand, like, what it is that gets a bull off.
Yeah, maybe I could learn something that I could use by my lonesome.
Or you walk out and you're like, wow, bulls are freaks.
Wait a second. This is just the same thing I always do, but looking at heifer porn.
I didn't need to pay for this. This is already out there on the internet. Buyer's remorse.
Or worse, it turns out it's like a whole hand up an ass.
Actually, yeah, I saw this in a movie once, but not like a weird pornographic movie. It was a British comedy. Apparently, it's not about Rick. Actually, this puts your story into a whole new strange light, because they used like a big old electric dildo to get the bull off. So maybe it's like you're dealing with some kind of Amish bull semen extractor who's doing it the old-fashioned way.
I hope, because I don't want a cattle prod jammed up my ass.
Yeah. Are you getting like the artisanal bull semen, like made the old-fashioned way by hand?
Organic.
You got to go to the farmer's market for this bull jizz.
Here at Bull Handjob Farms, we don't believe in sodomizing our bulls with electric dildos. We like to do it the way nature intended. By jerking off a beast.
Bull Handjob Farms does not recognize the G-spot in the prostate.
Yes. Here we jack off our bulls the same way our grandparents did it 100 years ago.
The way Jesus intended.
We're a Christian establishment. We're not going to have none of that weird gay bull stuff. We're just going to jack them off by hand.
But first we marry them.
Guys, we're 10 minutes in.
But
This is
the
not more
podcast
entertaining than whatever we're going to talk about.
It's times like this. I wish we had the technology to do live call-ins, so we could just spend the rest of the podcast talking to people who make bulls come.
Yeah, that I would love. No, my point was not that we're off topic. I don't think anybody expects us to be on topic by this point in following the show. It's more just we're only 10 minutes in and we're already on bull semen.
Well, we get to the point. We give the people what they want.
We do that.
Except there's like one lone listener going, but I really wanted to know what you guys thought of the trailer.
I would rather talk about the bull semen than the trailer. That's pretty much what we thought of it.
Somebody sitting there go, what a fucking clickbait title this was.
I mean, I watched the trailer and it was immediately like, yeah, I'm not going to see that. That looks stupid.
Yeah. What annoyed me was I've been seeing news or headlines on Twitter all day talking about this trailer, saying, "Oh, it took my breath away. Oh, it was so chilling." And I'm like, "Did you guys watch the same fucking trailer I did?"
It has a stupid jump scare in like the first 30 seconds of the trailer.
The truck
like you
going
can't
by?
even fake your way through a fucking trailer without a bad jump scare. Jesus Christ!
It annoyed me they used the scary child trope. Oh look, children in masks. I'm like, yeah, that happens every year, and it's just annoying. It's not scary. Children in masks.
I'll step back on that because, maybe 2 years ago, we did our last Halloween maze down in the basement. We had this one room where all these electronics were going off, and I went down there to shut off at night, and my youngest son was just sitting in the middle of this room, dressed in a Five Nights from Freddy mask, and I just kind of walked in and saw this, and I was just like, and I'm gonna walk back out.
Well, you see, your kid has presence and timing. He's just not walking around in an animal mask expecting me to be impressed.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better than that trailer if you saw those creepy kids walk in. Somebody just like stepped up, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Take the stupid masks off. It's not Halloween.
All right. Well, I thought it was really creepy, and like I mentioned before, I scare easy. But my one criticism is that if I hadn't known I was looking at a trailer for Pet Sematary, I would have known that for quite a while into it. There's nothing to say that this was about a pet cemetery until very much toward the end.
As regular listeners might know, what we actually do, we like to pretend this is a conversation that just happens organically, but what we actually do is force Robert Bevan to watch the trailer before we start recording. But in this case, we forced him to watch the original trailer as well.
I was just curious. I'd seen the original movie. There's one, I've actually seen that, so
by your standards, the original trailer was spot on, because that was like, it basically explained the mechanics of the pet cemetery. I think that's pretty much all it did.
It told me that I'm going to see a movie about a pet cemetery, and that
they explained, it's like, we're going to bury the cat and then the cat will come back. But
what I didn't understand, and I barely remember the movie, is the neighbor guy, he knew this was bad. Why did he take him out there to bury the cat?
I think because
he was old and bored.
Well, I mean, all right, but he gave him a warning. Oh, don't bury your kid. Was that? I mean, that'd be 1,000 times more entertaining if boredom was what you were trying to get over.
It makes even less sense in the book, because in the book he goes on a huge tangent about the horrible experiences he had with the pet cemetery. And he's like, well, your kid's feeling... Instead of your kid learning a valuable lesson about not fucking with speeding lorries, let's bring your cat back to life with the same dark magic that ruined my life once upon a time. And then he's not surprised at all when his kid gets hit by a lorry and says, shall we resurrect him with the awful dark magic that ruined everyone's life before?
Well, the entire book, and like the original movie too, but it really is just about a cataclysmically stupid person who keeps doing the same thing over and over again, despite it just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, no one's particularly bright in this horror concept, but it's a good horror concept. I do like the idea of that's what Stephen King's good at. He's good at a decent, solid horror concept and some cheeseball Americana characters, and then you just let it roll. You don't think too much about it, and it's a great story.
I'm going to come in on Bevan's side, actually, for this one, because I really do agree. I was sort of thinking a similar point, that if you didn't brand this trailer as Pet Sematary, it would be just any other generic horror movie that my brain would completely scan.
You watch it, you're like, another fucking Blair Witch sequel.
Yeah, like, honestly, there was nothing iconic or, like, interesting that was beyond, like, okay, it's Pet Sematary, but if you took the title away and told me to guess, maybe I'd get it. Maybe. Like, Bevan's right. Like, there's really not a lot to signify what this movie is going to be about narratively. They're just like, fuck you. Yeah. You know the name. You're coming to see it.
There's some lines in the trailer that are from the book, which if you're familiar with the book, you would know, but... Yeah, I mean, if you're coming in cold to this...
Yeah.
It doesn't try to stand out.
I mean, in the original movie, they had, like, the earth moving and the graves. It was very obvious they're burying stuff and it's come back to life, and that which did come back to life was evil. But we're like in the internet age now, and they expect you to do the research. And I'm thinking, no, that's not. I don't get paid for that. You get paid for that. I don't want to watch a movie and then a movie trailer and then have to do the research to understand what's going on. Yeah, surely that's your job as a trailer maker.
Yeah, I mean the main takeaway from when I watched the trailer was where the fuck in the book are stupid kids marching through the forest wearing dumb masks, you know?
They weren't in the book, and they weren't in the book for a reason. But I think that's maybe that's just a symptom of it being a remake. Maybe they're just taking it for granted.
Yeah.
That this famous horror story is, and we're just going to all watch it for nostalgia's sake, and we're going to think, oh, look, they've done something a bit different. There's some spooky kids and masks in it.
Take my $20.
Yeah, even though the premise of the movie is they expect us to be scared of a cat, which ain't going to happen.
No.
I'm never going to be scared of something I can drop kick across a fence.
No. It's a cat and a small 3-year-old child, you know?
Oh, yeah. Again, I'm never going to be scared of something I can't drop kick across a fence.
Well, this is one of the reasons I actually watched, and I think I enjoyed the original movie. It's been so long, but because I didn't find it very scary. Like Steve said before, it was an interesting concept, and like that's what he does. Stephen King, he'll take a what if scenario, what if something fucked up, and I'll take it a step further. The concept being the pet cemetery, where pets come back to life as evil, and then, well, my kid died, and then grieving parent is gonna give it a whirl.
Roll them dice.
And I buried my gerbil there, and it came back evil.
I think the most scary thing about the original film adaptation, it sounds terrible, was the dead jogger and the ghost of the dead jogger, because that was quite horrific.
Wait, what?
Oh, come on,
the trailer
man.
we just watched?
No,
not the trailer, the original film. You've seen the film. The dead jogger.
No, I don't remember the dead jogger. No.
That's the best part. Oh, there are two scary parts, and I feel bad about the second one, but the first scary part is the dead jogger. The second part is the horrifically malformed, disabled sister that was locked in an attic room, which had really nothing to do with the plot. But
wait a second. That sounds kind of familiar, but
you've watched this movie. That was in the trailer.
But that was. Oh, wait, the sister was?
In the original trailer, the person who looked like a Skeletor's missus.
I gotta watch it again.
Yeah, it's safe to say the movie did not leave a lasting impression here.
Well, it was. How long ago was that movie?
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I barely remember shit that happened yet last week.
Yeah,
I mean, every episode of A&D is like me playing catch up for the first half hour.
I haven't watched it in.
Wait, I'm a rogue?
I will say I still have the Ramones song from that movie on my iPhone.
Oh, see, I don't remember the Ramones song.
Oh, I don't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. It is the most ridiculous. It's one of those ridiculous songs for a horror movie that I think they stuffed way back in the credits or so. And you watch it, and it's just like you can just tell these guys basically just like said, okay, we'll take your money and we will write you a song just full of our utter disdain for your project.
Is that back in the time when in the 80s when they used to get like punk bands to write songs themed around their? Because I was just watching a load of horror movies back to back tonight, and there were so many kind of like the credits roll, then somebody starts singing a punk song that's got a suspiciously like similar lyric to the title. That was just a thing for a while.
We just watched Friday the 13th Part 6. It's full of Alice Cooper songs.
But are they Alice Cooper songs about a man in a mask?
Yes.
All right, okay.
There's actually a song called He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask.
Okay, right.
Oh, holy shit.
Jesus. All right, that was just a thing that happened back then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not good.
But I think it was a cool thing that happened.
What are they going to do now? Are they going to get like, I'm trying to think of a modern musical, a group that I might quote. Are they going to, for the new Pet Cemetery, are they going to get fucking Justin Bieber to do something? I don't know. How does it work now?
Beyonce sings Pet Cemetery.
The remix version. The horrible remix like they did for that fucking Ghostbusters movie.
Oh. Who had it? Who had Oh, God, what's our time? Like 10 minutes into a movie discussion?
But it's Halloween. I'm allowed to talk about fucking bullshit.
Well, technically speaking, Ghostbusters, you could make a stretch that it is kind of a horror remake, or at least a horrific remake.
Which, brings us into our main topic.
Ooh, spooky main topic. Are we going to segue into shit horror remakes?
I think we're going to talk about like horror remakes in general. The good, the bad. If you're going to reboot a franchise, because let's be honest, sometimes in the course of a series, it's a necessary thing. Like the actors who play iconic characters get old, and, if you want the thing to keep going, you have to be willing to change it up. So when do we like it? When do we hate it? What are the things that mark a good horror reboot or remake from ones that are just complete pieces of shit? Steve, why don't you just go ahead and start off on this? I feel like you've got some points you'd like to make.
I'm not going to. Look, I'm going to save all my vitriol for the Ghostbusters movie for when I inevitably snap and blow up some kind of public event. So let's not get into it now. I've got a whole manifesto that I've got written about that movie. But if we're talking about horror remakes, we're living in the rich, fertile fields of the horror remake. Not just because they're remaking everything, but they're especially remaking horrors. They remade Chucky, they remade Freddy, and I have just absolutely no interest.
They've remade Jason.
Did they remake Jason?
Yep, they rebooted Jason.
Oh, for
They
fuck's
rebooted
sake.
Evil Dead.
They're rebooting Halloween. I mean, I watched the Evil Dead reboot, and it was, I enjoyed it. It was a good, grueling horror film. But I have had absolutely no desire to see somebody who isn't Robert Englund play Freddy, or somebody who wasn't the original voice of Chucky play Chucky. I'm not saying that Ghostbusters 2016 ruined this for me, because they ruined a lot more personal things for me, which again is going to be a whole individual podcast. I might just start a podcast series about how much I hate that. But there's certain kind of horror films that are just, I guess, of their time, which I'm just not interested in seeing a modern slick remake of. Yeah, I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of any horror movie remake I'd get excited about from the golden age of horror.
I mean, I can think of one really good one off the top of my head, and it's a rare one because here's the thing. I find a lot of horror remakes, either they don't bring anything new or the stuff that they do bring new is completely unnecessary. Like Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween, it added a backstory to Michael Myers, which completely destroyed the whole concept that he's supposed to just be evil. It's like, I don't want to know that he's a fucked up kid with fucked up parents. Now suddenly I'm rooting for him to kill everybody. But the one that comes to mind for me is John Carpenter's The Thing, because the original The Thing from Another World is like a 1950s horror movie, and the remake pretty much takes the base concept and just says, okay, this is the base concept and this is the title, and we're just going off in a completely different direction, and it's awesome, but it's still a remake.
It's interesting. You guys brought up a really good point that had me thinking. I think a lot of the characters that are driven by the actor are a lot harder to do any kind of reboot or remake of. Like, because Freddy is so Robert Englund, or like Leprechaun is so Warwick Davis. Mm-hmm. The idea of like someone else portraying him, it's like, no, that's dog shit. But like Jason is silent, so another huge guy could easily like step into those shoes and it wouldn't really be as visceral.
I still think Jason's iconic, and at times they've tried to step away from the essential kind of silent, huge, invincible killer, even as so much as to give him cybernetic implants, have all been kind of ridiculous failures. But something like The Thing, I guess, having read the story it's based on, who goes there, the basic premise of the kind of paranoia in an isolated environment. But I guess talking about The Thing, there was the modern remake of The Thing, which was, I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys are picking this up on the mic, but it sounds like a fox is giving birth right outside my window right now. Can you hear that?
Yes.
It sounds like something, yeah. What is happening?
That is a fox. Possibly bumming another fox. I don't know.
Is one of your neighbors jacking off a fox because they couldn't find a bull?
It's got to keep the practice
pig.
up.
It's they export English pig semen.
They're jacking off a pig with a fox. That's just how we do things in the country.
You know what? They're jacking off a fox to sell it as counterfeit pig semen.
I feel like it would take more foxes to get an equivalent amount because they're smaller creatures.
We don't know what their regeneration rate is like. There might be more randy creatures. But anyway, I'm not gonna try and edit around now. I'm gonna leave that in as a spooky Halloween sound effect.
The sound of life.
For fox with some kind of thumb up its ass. But yeah, I think when we're talking about a thing, a more accurate kind of comparison would be the soft sequel of I think it was 2000. Jesus, what was it? 2012 version of The Thing, where they really just took the John Carpenter version ball and ran with it, and it could have been good had they not sacrificed all the great elements of the original. I say the original. I guess the original John Carpenter version is the definitive version of that. But yeah, even when that came out, I was kind of, and even though they billed it as a sequel, I was just sort of, I'm not interested. There's no way. There was a big hype about them saying, oh, we're going to use practical effects, which they didn't because they're pussies. But even when they said that, I was thinking, you're not going to touch that. It's just not the right time, not the right place. It's never going to exist in the moment as it did. Yeah, not interested.
Am I crazy, or are they trying to remake They Live?
Oh, they better not.
I have heard things. You know, it's like, guys, let John Carpenter die before you start ransacking his grave.
I know there are talks for Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, he's not even dead, you vultures. I was thinking about Big Trouble in Little China. It's such a wholesome, weird movie. Maybe it would be nice if it was remade, you know, if it was in the spirit of the original. But who's going to pull that off? It's really, really is its own thing, and especially They Live.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I think where we mentioned this on the Mimic Chest, by the way, which you can access with a Patreon donation, is They Live was such a John Carpenter movie, but such a kind of really pertinent social message made with the medium of a wrestler kicking another huge guy in the bollocks for 20 minutes. And you can't, how are you going to remake that without it coming off as some ironic piss take or something that is so slick it just misses the original charm?
Yeah, some movies are just lightning in a bottle. And I mean, honestly, the original Jaws is a pretty good example. Yeah. Because even within the canon of actual people who had worked on the project, like trying to continue it on, it was just bad. Like, people say like Jaws 2 and 3 are okay, but they're not. Like, Jaws is good and the rest are kind of throwaways.
And we've kind of moved on from that. Who's scared of one shark now? It's like it's a whole tornado full of sharks or nothing. Or
the Meg,
yeah,
giant ultra shark.
It's like somebody was thinking of a Jason Statham villain, and they thought, oh, we could put him against a shark. They thought, well, no, this is fucking Jason Statham. Yeah. Give him just like scale up a shark by about 20 times.
Yeah, but it's not even a horror movie at that though. It's like, you know, Jaws was marketed like this horror thing. You see this like, you know, thing about this like 80-foot shark, and all you're thinking is, I can't wait to watch Jason Statham punch it out.
Somehow
there's no horror. That's no horror there. It's a Fast and the Furious remake in the water.
For the logic of filmmaking, somehow Jason Statham fighting this giant shark is more realistic to me than Jason Statham fighting an actual size shark. I don't know how they I'm not sure how they sort of implanted that logic within me, but there you go.
Now, did anybody see The Shallow, since we're talking about shark horror?
Nope.
No.
With Blake Lively.
I don't think I did.
I'm still here, by the way.
We found a one horror movie that Robert Bevan had watched, the original Pet Sematary, and we just fucking breezed over it like it was nothing.
We really did.
Sorry, man.
Hey, no, it's cool.
Oh.
I knew this going in.
It's all right. We have a segment planned for you, Bevan. One where you are at the center.
It's called Movies That Robert Bevan Has Watched.
So, do we want to move on to the Bevan pitch?
No,
section?
you had something. Some shallow something.
Oh, The Shallows. Well, in discussing Shark Horror, The Shallows came out last year, and it's about like a woman kind of stuck on an island, like surrounded by a big ass shark. And it was really good. It did a good job of employing a lot of tension and creepiness, and just very good environmental, making you feel closed in and whatnot. I was like, this is sort of what shark horror should have been for a little while.
I do remember that now, actually. Yeah, it was a good balance between, I guess, thriller and horror.
Yeah, like bouts of action and then bouts of tension. And that's what the first Jaws really had, was the waiting.
Well, it was an excellent drama as well. It was just a very good film.
Yeah.
So when the shark did actually eat a child, you're like, oh, holy shit, that is horrifying.
But the thing is...
I saw Jaws, by the way.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Nah, it's
In fact,
stupid.
I made my kids watch it, and they are like terrified and bored. Sucked.
Boardified.
I don't want to go to sleep, but I can't stay awake.
Jaws did terrify me when I was about 6 when I watched that. Yeah, I was not good in the ocean for a long time now.
Yeah, again, that's another thing. I liked it a lot. I think that has a lot to do with it. It didn't scare me. I don't know, whatever. I was never afraid of the ocean or anything. It's just a big shark, and I hope that doesn't happen to me, but I'm not thinking about it when I'm playing at the beach.
Oh, I still won't go in the ocean. That's not just sharks, just general phobia.
I've been snorkeling before, and there's not a single time I've done it where I haven't been kind of like, oh, this is nice. I'm down on the seabed, and then just thought, dun. I mean, I don't like shit myself or anything, but I do think this, I might get eaten right now.
Yeah, I hate being lower on the food chain. That's what's fucked up.
My wife hates... Well, there's many reasons why she hates me, but one of the reasons is I spend way too much time quoting Jaws. hey, did you get? We need to give the dog a bath. Did you catch him? Yeah. Once caught a 16-footer off Montauk. Took 2 barrels to bring him up. Just bring the fucking dog in.
Oh yeah, I'll get your dog and I'll clean him for free.
I love that our remake discussion turned into just Jaws.
Like we're just sticking in the pool of the 5 or 6 films that Robert Bevan has seen.
All right, listen. All right, I did think of something that kind of counts, just so I can be relevant. Little Shop of Horrors, does that count? It's horror-ish. It's a remake, not a remake of another movie, but
it is a remake
of a stage show. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about that, though, except that I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I saw the
Not
original,
scared.
the original black and white version.
Oh, what? All right, that's right. There was one.
Yeah.
All right, so woohoo, this counts.
It wasn't great. It didn't have a musical section with Steve Martin in it, so it loses points for that.
Loses a lot of points for that.
This was, I'm looking it up now, 1986, so...
Yeah, the musical version.
Yeah, the Steve Martin...
No, yeah, I'm just, spoiler alert. Or even further back, in the black and white one, who won?
Oh, the plant one.
The plants
Right.
definitely won.
Yeah.
So, all right, in this one, Seymour wins, and he runs off with Audrey, won. And, but that wasn't the original ending, I found out.
In the stage production and the original shoot, the plants win, but it tested really badly.
Right, yeah.
So they changed it.
But I didn't find this out until, again, I watched this with my kids, and I guess recently they've re-released the original ending. And I was like, what the fuck? This isn't what happens.
I'm with you. I watched the original after I watched the musical. I was like, not only is nobody singing here, not only is Steve Martin definitely not in this, but those characters we just built a relationship with definitely just got digested by that plant.
Yeah, it's a dark ending. But actually, Bevan, you have provided us the perfect segue to our next topic area thing. Since we are doing an October spooky side quest episode today, and a lot of us are fans of horror, but you are not. And occasionally we do get our listeners who have asked us like what some of our favorite horror movies are. Bevan, we're going to try to pitch you on watching some of our favorite horror movies, and you are our proxy for our audience. So we have to try to sell you.
Probably not a great proxy.
Hey, that's what makes it great.
Yeah.
Like, you are a hard sell.
Yeah.
Yep.
If this wasn't like an exercise in self-defeat, it wouldn't be funny for our listeners.
Yeah.
The problem here is that the better a horror movie it is, the less likely I'll want to see it.
Oh, I don't like good horror movies.
No, I'm saying like the scarier ones. Like if the top of your list was Little Shop of Horrors, I'd say woohoo! All right, I'm in. But all right, go. Let's run with it.
So let's get some touchstones for us to bounce off of. Right now, we have all done several of the Tournament of Terror episodes. So, Bevan, which of those have you enjoyed more than others so far?
Let's see. I guess the one I enjoyed most was Leprechaun.
Excellent taste.
Yeah.
Oh, dear God.
Maybe the only one I enjoyed it at all.
Good news, Bevan. There's a whole Leprechaun series.
I'm not saying I enjoyed it. I'm just,
Too late.
Relative to the others.
Oh, we're going to be watching so many Leprechaun movies from here on in.
St. Paddy's Day is coming.
Leprechaun marathon.
Okay. So, Bevan, I will open this to give the other guys some time to think. And I'm going to try to sell you on Trick or Treat, which I consider one of the few horror movies that I describe as not just a good horror movie, but a good movie in general. Like, it's a well-structured, well-written, well-acted film.
All right, then along the lines of Jaws, but probably not with sharks.
Not with sharks.
Right.
So it's a interwoven anthology. So I think it follows 4 or 5 different kind of characters or sets of characters through Halloween nights, and their stories kind of intersect. The casting is a lot of like people you definitely recognize. They've got Anna Paquin. I cannot remember the name.
The other one.
Dude. Yeah. No, it's like he's an old character actor, and I cannot remember his fucking name, and it's going to drive me crazy. Anyway, it's a ton of people who you'll look at and you'll be like, oh shit, yeah, them. There are some genuinely kind of creepy parts, but it never goes overboard on like jump scares or gore. It builds a lot of its horror from tension and uncertainty. There are, a few scary slasher elements, of course, but more than anything, it's a fun, interesting story to watch that I really enjoy. And it really, truly, like, the cast is fucking fantastic. They really all sell their parts, and the stories that they tell are interesting. So that is Trick or Treat.
They sell their parts. Is that the plot?
Yes, they sell their parts. So actually, yeah, the plot is basically just it's a town on Halloween, and there are certain rules and traditions that you're supposed to observe on Halloween. And if you
in this town in particular?
No, all over.
Okay.
Just in general, the general traditions of Halloween.
Don't roll over kids.
Yeah. I think one of them is don't blow out your jack-o'-lantern until midnight, things like that.
Oh, all right.
And
are these based on real things? Or
yeah,
like,
yeah. It's
I've never known that.
Based on the old mythology of like Halloween's origins and stuff.
I'm an asshole blowing out my jack-o'-lanterns early.
You're lucky you weren't murdered.
And the people who don't obey are punished. So yeah, Bevan, don't be blowing out your jack-o'-lantern early this year, especially if you see a kid with a burlap sack on his head standing around,
or an animal mask.
Yeah. And the main like monster thing I consider creepy. I don't know. I love it. I watch it yearly. It is fantastic. That's my first pitch for Bevan. So, all right, Bevan.
Are we gonna have multiples?
We might. We'll kind of see how long it goes.
All right.
See how much you can take.
Bevan, how you feel about that? You feel interested?
Yeah, kind of. You sold it well. It's the scary parts don't sit well with me, but I guess it's a horror movie. But yeah, it sounds interesting.
All right, who's up next?
I guarantee this will be a no, but my favorite horror movie of all time is The Exorcist. Have you ever seen that?
Probably bits and pieces. I know enough pop culture to like put it together anyway. So yeah.
Well,
I've essentially seen it.
I mean, okay. Then there's probably no point in talking about that.
well, fuck you. I'm going home then.
No, go ahead and give me the pitch anyway.
Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is, it's considered one of the classics of horror. It's like long before like the days when companies just use cheap ass CGI. There's not a lot of jump scares in it. Most of it is psychological horror. It's a slow build. Primarily, a lot of the horror centers around the fact that all the bad things tend to happen to this little girl. And it's less horror and more kind of the slow disintegration of her family that just so happens to be because she's possessed by a horrific demon.
Right.
And the thing is, I mean, it's really well acted. There's some awesome directorial cues with sound, lighting, all of that. You can just tell they put a ton of work into this. It's very well written. It's very well directed. I mean, Max von Sydow is in the movie for maybe all of like 10 minutes, and he just pretty much steals every scene he's in. He's the old priest who performs the exorcism.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing: if it's a movie where, like, if you don't like jump scares, but you do like the kind of like horror that makes you think, it's an excellent movie, while still kind of being pretty terrifying. I mean, so a lot of people do have like kind of there's a lot of like rumor around the movie. Oh, it's cursed. Oh, it's like if you watch it, like Satan will show up in your backyard. There's a lot of bullshit behind it, which I think pretty much did nothing but sell extra tickets. But
sure,
it's just one of those classic movies, and you really, it's very rare for you to say like a classic movie that's horror, but it pretty much is the definitive classic horror before horror became dumb and just like, relied on like monsters teleporting off screen.
Yeah, well, I guess however well you sold it, I feel like I should watch it all the way through just to put all my pop culture knowledge into perspective.
I'll take that as a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of those movies that you feel like you've seen because it's so prevalent in pop culture and references.
Right.
But I guess it's something you should see so you can say you've seen it.
And there's a seriously hilarious Saturday Night Live skit on it with Richard Pryor as one of the priests.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
Well, there's a great comedy remake of it with Leslie Nielsen called Repossessed.
Oh, God, yeah, I almost forgot about that.
Well, I haven't seen it since I was 12. I assume it's still as great as I thought it was at the time.
That might be the only kind of horror remake that I actually think we could all stand behind. The horror comedy parody, specifically the ones made when satire was good before the whole not another teen movie thing.
Yeah.
Because Dracula Dead and Loving It just did not cut it. I mean, it was a swing, but it was a miss.
But the first scary movie is actually really friggin' funny.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That's before we all got irony poisoning and life became essentially meaningless. But it was good for a little while there before our resistance. It was a bit like, irony is a bit like heroin. So when that came out, I was like, oh, here's a great experience with this. We're going to break down the horror movie in ways you're already familiar with. And we'll all have a nice, ironically detached 90s grunge experience of horror. But then after that, it's like, well, now my resistance is built up and my life is miserable. I'm probably going to shoot myself.
Oh, here's another one. Man, those are ambulances.
Yes.
What kind of dystopia do you live in?
Sorry, we don't have enough fox fucking here.
Apparently the fox fucking keeps the crime away.
We're going to hear somebody stick their head in his window next and be like, "Warriors, come out and play."
So, Steve, what horror do you want to sell Bevan on?
You did so well with the last one.
Well, my favorite thing about horses is when they die so I can beat them. So,
mine too. I mean, that's what my books are about.
So I'm going to go with something that's almost exactly like Evil Dead 2. And also, Rick mentioned horror that makes you think. I'm thinking right now horror that makes you do the opposite. Phantasm 2. Not Phantasm 1, Phantasm 2.
Now, do I need to have seen Phantasm 1 to appreciate Phantasm 2?
Not really. Phantasm 1 was not his debut film, but his debut horror work by Don Coscarelli. I think I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. But he's an auteur. He still is an auteur. He did the John Dies at the End movie. He did Bubba Hotep. He kind of does good indie films, albeit low-budget indie films. And the Phantasm series was a very kind of weird and charismatic horror movie about these small-town guys who notice there's a lot of strange murders going on. And they all put it down to the Tall Man, who was a local mortician, played by the late, great Angus Scrimm, who had no horror effects at all. He was just a scary-looking dude. And he had, if you don't know this movie, you might be familiar with the flying spheres, silver balls that eject spike and fly into people's faces and then drill through their eyes.
No.
No? Oh, well, they were big on like heavy metal style artwork for a while. Yeah, so it turns out that this Tall Man is killing people and transforming them into dwarf zombies to work in another dimension for reasons unknown. And that sounds strange, but it's because the whole movie is like really fucked up. It doesn't really have a point. The end of the first movie is like, oh, it's all a crazy dream because you're crazy, and that's what phantasm means. But then Phantasm 2 is like, oh no, hold on a minute, man. You're not.
Oh shit, we were on Phantasm 1?
Yeah, this is just me.
God damn it, you just sold me on that.
This is me laying the carpet, man. Phantasm 2, because he has a mate called Reggie who's an ice cream salesman. And in Phantasm 2, Reggie's like, no, you're not crazy. I'm going to blow up this house with all these zombie dwarfs in it. I'm going to bust you out of the psychiatric ward. We're going to hunt down the Tall Man. First, we're going to go to the hardware shop. I'm going to glue 2 double-barrel shotguns together. I'm going to make you a flamethrower. We're going to have a chainsaw each. And we're going to go out into this weird American hellscape where small-town America has become this ghost town of weird mausoleums and abandoned buildings. And we're going to fight mutant freaks as we search for this magical Tall Man so we can fuck him up with chainsaws to avenge your dead brother who may or may not have existed.
Man, Steve might have the winner here. And I'm being objective, from my experience with the last Steve recommendation. I'm separating these, even though there are chainsaws involved and shotguns and sounding a little similar, but giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Also, Reggie is bald with a ponytail, and he's the only kind of like bald hero I have. I don't mean like a hero with a shaved head, but an unabashedly bold ice cream salesman who clamps 2 shotguns together and fights evil.
All right, what is the point of clamping the shotguns together?
Because it's awesome. Cool. I think it's not until like Phantasm 3 where there's all these zombie dwarfs that are in a tree and they're all like cackling at him, and he just points the shotgun up, the 4-barreled shotgun, fires, and then there's like 5 minutes of just these dead little bodies just dropping out of the tree. You think, oh, that's what it was for. Well played, Reggie.
So, Bevan, I have one more I want to throw to you quickly, and to tell you the truth, Trick or Treat I love, and a little bit of the recommendation was for the audience. But
no, wait. Just to be clear on that, is trick or treat? Or
yeah, trick or treat.
Like R as in the B verb, or as in the letter R?
As in the letter R.
Okay. Is it backwards, like Toys R Us? Or?
Nope, just the letter R. But I've got one.
Is that relevant?
Trick Toys R Us?
No. Just the fact that it's an R, is that?
No, not especially.
I assume there was already a movie called Trick or Treat, and that's how.
Yeah, probably that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But there's one I think I want to recommend to you specifically, just because I think you will genuinely enjoy it, and it is technically horror. Hansel and Gretel: Witch Hunters. It is.
Is that the one that was just released a few years ago?
Yeah, it's got Jeremy Renner in it. It's really, really bad, but in a.
Yeah, I think I saw the beginning of it.
You have to get like a little bit in, because it starts off like any other really shitty horror movie, and then all of a sudden, after like 20 minutes, when we're like, okay, these are the main characters as adults, and holy shit, it devolves into a weird action, overly choreographed kung fu fighting thing. Like, they're literally doing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon levels of like jumping through the air and kicking shit.
Right. I remember like wanting to see it. I remember because that's what the trailer portrayed. But then I think when we actually sat down to watch it was like, I don't care, and we stopped. Maybe.
Oh yeah, it's a real slow starter, but man, once you get in, it is incredibly dumb. They've got like steampunk guns, and bombs and technology that it's absolutely. Out of the gate, does not give a single fuck, but it is fun. It is fun to just watch these weird, complex fights.
Oh no, and also, I mean, it's one of those movies that, like, it takes place like hundreds of years ago, but you got Jeremy Renner just throwing out like modern one-liners and shit.
Oh yeah, like he has insulin like that they've invented. It's bananas. And I genuinely do think you should watch that one. Maybe that one could even be a candidate for Authors and Dragons at the movies. I feel like that's bad enough.
See, I'm going to tell you something else that something along similar lines that turned out to be kind of a disappointment. The Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
That one took itself too seriously for me.
Yeah, same here.
I think it did all right for its budget. It was, it was not like a slick Hollywood movie, and they had a concept which was Adrian. Not Adrian. What's your dumbass president's name again?
Abraham.
Donald.
Adrian Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Well, I'm a bit drunk. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And if you'd given me that title, I would have said, fuck off.
Not me. That drew me in.
Yeah, that's a good title.
You know what? You know what might be better? The Asylum did a shitty ripoff called Abraham Lincoln Zombie Slayer, and it's bad to the point where like it possibly has the worst Southern accent by somebody who is clearly not Southern, and he's just in the movie the entire fucking time. It's great.
Wait. Like worse than Keanu Reeves in Devil's Advocate?
Yes, far worse.
Wow.
Or worse than literally anyone at all, doing Louisiana accent. Because, man, even if they're from there, the directors tell them to really, really go for it, really overdo it.
I think I'm going to pitch.
You got all that?
Adrian Lincoln Vampire Hunter. He's just like not the president, but he still has to hunt vampires. It's much less glamorous.
But what I didn't like about that movie, because I read the book and I enjoyed that enough. But the movie, I thought, all right, they're gonna ramp it up and take it to ridiculousness with like he's twirling around axes and shit, and it just really looked cool in the trailer. And then
there wasn't really enough of that. Yeah.
If it was all that, then awesome. Which is why which is what Drew's recommendation reminded me of.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have the sense of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter felt like it thought it was going to be a real movie and tried to carry a certain amount of gravitas with that. Whereas the Witch Hunter action movie, they know what they're doing.
It was like they tried to have respect for presidents in America and stuff. Whereas if I'd wrote that, it would just be like, I'm going to give you 4 scores, bitch. And then he would literally slash somebody 4 times.
Yeah, that would have been great.
I didn't want respect for presidents. I wanted axe twirling and like for 90 minutes.
Exactly, and I would have had at least 3 other presidents in it.
Yeah, that then it's like a sequel, like Theodore Roosevelt, Bigfoot Hunter, or something.
Oh shit!
Howard Taft, hot dog hunter.
Teddy Roosevelt, Bigfoot Hunter, Rick, get on that before this podcast goes out, because I'm just going to steal that idea.
I don't know why.
There were like a bunch of other books released, like trying to get on that train. There was like the George Washington is a werewolf. I think that might have been the title. I don't know how those did. I never bothered reading them, but it was just embarrassing to see.
The best thing about the Teddy Roosevelt one, though, is it would explain why there's no more Bigfoots.
No, nice. That sounds brilliant.
Yeah, that'll work. I think maybe we should just derail this podcast and now just develop that movie idea.
Yeah, that sounds like a better idea.
I don't know why somebody hasn't written that yet.
Shit, maybe we should just cut all this before.
Well, that is probably about our time for this side quest. Let's see. Does anybody have any parting recommendations or Halloween advice you want to give everybody?
Don't run over kids.
But that's generally good advice for any time of the year. But
just gonna upvote, yeah.
Just an upvote.
Thanks, Bevan. You kind of locked us down on that one.
I like to think that people could take a positive social message away from this podcast.
I feel like Rick's not agreeing here.
Oh no. I mean,
I generally don't run over kids, but sometimes maybe.
I didn't hear him say I agree.
Oh, fine. Yes. Don't run over your kids, or your neighbor's kids.
He said begrudgingly.
I think I'm going to one last recommendation to Robert Bevan, if he hasn't seen them, is any of the Troma movies, because I just watched 2 of them back to back before this. And it's like if somebody tried to do Critical Failures with no understanding of wit or charm. So I think you'll appreciate that kind of base essence of the old Troma movies.
Save your snide remarks, listeners.
Sorry, I'm depressed because I do see on Amazon there is Teddy Roosevelt Sasquatch Hunter.
Oh shit!
No new ideas under the sun, people. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of SideQuest. We hope you are having a happy Halloween. We'll be back next week with another episode of Authors and Dragons. See you next time. Bye.
Bye. So long. Goodbye.
Fuck you, Gaines C. Young, author of Teddy Roosevelt Sasquatch Hunter.